It is easy enough to be friendly to one's friends, but to befriend the one who regards himself as your enemy is the quintessence of true religion. The other is mere business. Mahatma Gandhi. Happy New Year, everybody. You're watching History Hound, Ann versus the Cyclops. Today we're going to talk about Durham, North Carolina. This is the home of my Uncle Justin, Aunt Kelly, and my cousins Isaac, Eden, and Amelia. Isaac just did a cool thing. She made a board game based on the French Revolution themed loosely around the musical / Victor Hugo novel Les Miserables. Lots of history trivia. Good job, cuz. There's quite a bit of history in this little city. Like, did you know that this was the site of what many believed to be the end of the Civil War? It's true. Even though Lee surrendered to Grant, put him out of his courthouse in Virginia on April 9th, 1865, parts of the Confederate Army were still spread out and fighting. It wasn't until April 26th, a week and a half after Lincoln was shot, that General William Tecumseh Sherman fought the largest of these parts and accepted the surrender of Confederate General Joseph E. Johnston at Bennett Place. It was also a major site for civil rights activism in the 60s, as it was the stop for Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and the site of North Carolina's first sit-in. And it's the civil rights battle we're going to talk about. We'll start with the landmark Supreme Court decision, Brown versus the Board of Education. If you missed it in history class or haven't gotten there yet, this was a unanimous decision that said that the segregation of schools was unconstitutional and that blacks and white kids should attend school together. This 1954 ruling was certainly controversial, partly because it had no guidelines for how or when states needed to segregate. That is until the sequel, Brown number 2, in 1955, where the court said, just, do it all with deliberate speed, which most states and counties took to mean, okay, done, while others took to mean, sure, wink, wink, we'll get right on that. In 1964, the Supreme Court overturned Brown 2 with a little spin-off series called Griffin versus School Board of Prince Edward County, where they said the time for mere deliberate speed has run out. So, lots of states and counties were taking their time. Even after Griffin, some districts cut off funding for their public schools to stall our efforts of desegregation entirely. Other areas found it that simply desegregating wasn't as easy as it sounds. Durham was one of these districts. Racial tension in the district was reaching a boiling point, with fights breaking out in the schools between black and white students and parents within the community. Something needed to be done. So the Durham councilman, Bill Riddick, called a charrette, okay, really? 2 people were selected to lead the charrette. The first was former Carolina Times Woman of the Year, Ann Atwater, who gained the title for being a powerhouse civil rights leader. She was a member of Operation Breakthrough, an organization designed to help poor people escape poverty by learning skills and building confidence. Atwater herself benefited from the program before joining it. By the time she was part of the charrette, she had mobilized poor blacks in Durham to demand fair treatment, including an important change in the welfare office, where it's common practice for white welfare workers, like black applicants, yell their problems across the room of another applicant for the purposes of embarrassment. Because of Atwater, applicants now meet with workers in private partition booths. The other co-chair was, C.P. Ellis. Ellis was a Cyclops. Not just any Cyclops, but the grand exalted Cyclops of the local chapter of the Ku Klux Klan. The son of a Klansman, Ellis was the father of 4 children, one of them was blind, and externalized his blame to the black community, mostly because of his upbringing. While Atwater was fighting for the rights of blacks in the community, Ellis started a youth organization designed to indoctrinate kids into the teachings of the KKK. So, with leadership sharing such similar ideologies, this was certain to be a smooth, informative process. That was sarcasm. The truth, the horrible, predictable truth, is that this effort started out with Atwater pulling a knife on Ellis, and Ellis keeping a machine gun in the trunk of his car when he attended the meetings. Ellis had no problem calling Atwater the N-word, while Atwater had no issue calling Ellis out for being a racist POS. For several days, the meetings were mostly just shouting, yelling, and other words that mean shouting and yelling. Threats were made, claws were sharpened. A gospel choir showed up. A gospel choir showed up. While the gospel choir sang, Ellis clapped and danced along, and Atwater realized something important. The grand exalted Cyclops of the KKK had no rhythm. She grabbed his hands and taught him how to clap in time with the choir. It was this moment where many people say the charette went from volatile to peaceful and constructive. I'm certain those people are wrong. There's another thing that happened that I believe was the turning point. Atwater and Ellis talked to each other. Just the two of them, alone, no rallying KKK, no knives, no machine guns, or gospel choirs. Just a mother worried about the future of her children, and a father worried about the future of his. And they talked. Ellis saw that his struggles and Atwater's were similar. That the blacks weren't suppressing poor whites, but rather that the issue of poverty was systemic, and that the civil rights movement would benefit the poor white community, too. Atwater stopped seeing the grand exalted Cyclops of the KKK and saw C.P. Ellis, the father of four struggling to pay bills while caring for his disabled child. The night the two bitter enemies cried together. The last day of the charrette was attended by over 1,000 members of the community, including members of Ellis's clan. Ellis addressed the group. If schools are going to be better by me tearing up this card, I shall do so. And he took out his KKK membership card and destroyed it. He left the clan that night, never to return. The two of them presented a list of recommendations on not just how to desegregate the Durham schools so that there is representation from all races in the school by including 2 students of each major racial group on the board, but how to stop racial tension between the students before it escalates. Ellis and Atwater became friends. Good friends. Atwater would continue to fight for civil rights in the community, while Ellis would become a union leader. When he died of Alzheimer's in 2005, Atwater eulogized him, called him family. My videos up to this point have all been about big things. The Civil War, 9/11, World War I. This one was about a small community. Not even that. About 2 people. Bitter enemies with core ideologies at hate-filled war with each other, finding common ground. Understanding and shattering that hate so spectacularly that they made a movie of it. And unless I miss my guess, one of those people can be you. I bet there is someone you don't talk to much anymore because of things said during the last few years. Be it about election results, systemic racism, or ways to avoid attending the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Or if the Backstreet Boys are even getting back together in the first place. I have family members who just got back from the tour and they hated it. I'm just glad they came back. You've either chosen to ignore that rant of someone that you know who shares the exact opposite view of yours, or you've outright blocked them on social media. You've decided that this was enough to stop being friends. You decided that this was enough to stop being family. It might be mutual. Y'all went ahead and segregated yourselves. So take this video as a personal Brown II and figure out how to disintegrate yourselves with all deliberate speed. Make this our New Year's resolution. Find empathy. Find common ground. Break down the things that makes you enemies and affect real change in your personal life. If we can all figure that out, 2021 is going to kick 2020's ass. I know it's hard. I know you don't want to give the time of the day to someone you feel enabled, a corrupt president, to betray the country, or enable somebody to steal a vote, or someone who wants to defund the police, or who doesn't understand Black Lives Matter, or who refuses to wear a mask, or who thinks the country needs to go on lockdown for a bit to get through the pandemic, or who thinks abortion for any reason is straight up murder, or who thinks that a woman has a right to choose what she does with her body, or who thinks illegal immigration is destroying our country, or who thinks that people coming here for a chance at a better life need to be given that chance, or people who believe that Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior, or people who believe that the Bible is a fairy tale, or people who hold the teachings of the Quran close to their heart, or people who think that socialized medicine was the next big step to following communism, or who think that healthcare is a fundamental right that you should be affordable to all, or, fill in the blank. There's lots of reasons to be divided, and there's lots of things that divide us. We feel deep in our hearts that these people who disagree with us are the enemies, because how could they be so against what you believe is not your universal truth, and not to be. The fact is, each and every one of us is on the same team. We all want what we believe is best for us, our families, our country, our world. We disagree on how to get there, because in our core we all believe what we believe because it's for the best. I really think that. But we're never going to get there divided. If a civil rights powerhouse in the grand exalted Cyclops of the KKK can figure out how to do this, you certainly can. You've been watching History, Hound. Let's go make history.